In this video, I'm going to show you how to test your multifunction windscreen wiper switch and how to check if it's faulty. If we spring it down, we can hear there's continuity. And I'll also show you how to possibly fix it for free. Now, this is a somewhat common problem with a couple of VW models of vehicles where the windscreen wiper switch gives problems and the windscreen wipers continue to run all the time. They don't switch off even if the windscreen wiper switch is in the off position. Or it could happen that if that was your problem and a couple of days later the windscreen wipers don't work at all, so they don't ever turn on and they don't react to anywhere that you move the switch to, it could also possibly help fix that problem. Now, this is a little bit tricky if you don't remove the switch from the vehicle. We'll get to that shortly, but it is possible to test the switch without removing it from the vehicle. There's not a lot of working space behind the switch because we need to gain access to where the wiring harness plugs into, but it is possible. And to do this, you'll need to remove the plastics from around the steering column and then unplug the wiring harness from the right side of the switch. And then you should have access to the electrical contact pins on the back of the switch. I'm not going to try and video myself testing these pins while the switch is still in the car because it is practically impossible to test the pins and to get a camera in there and show you exactly what is happening. However, let's have a look at the back of the switch, the pin layout, and the pins that you need to test. The back of the switch looks like this, and there are 10 pins, and the 4 that we need to test are pins 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, pin 3 is a common pin. Pin 4 is the single wipe position when you pull the stalk down and the slow speed setting. Pin 5 is for the intermittent wipe setting, and pin 6 is for the fast speed setting. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to fast forward to where I've removed the switch from the vehicle, just like this one. We're going to have a look at what it's like behind the switch, the contacts that you can see and how you can test these, and also what's happening inside the switch. Now, I'm going to do this to hopefully give you a better idea of what is happening and how this whole thing works for when you go ahead and you're trying to test the pins behind the switch while it is still on the car. In order to work on this switch cluster, it needs to be removed from the vehicle. You need to disconnect the battery from the vehicle and then remove the plastics from around the steering column, remove the airbag and remove the steering wheel, and then also remove the clock spring. And once that is done, you can go ahead and unplug both the plugs from the steering cluster, and then the cluster can get unclipped. And to do that is fairly simple, but there are a couple of steps that need to be followed, and I do have a separate video with the exact step-by-step process to follow to remove this from the steering column. I'll leave a link to that video in the description, and also I'll link it at the end of this video. Go check that video out. I'm sure you'll find it really useful. So a way to test your switch cluster before you actually go and open it up. Now, this is the switch cluster. I've got you zoomed in a little bit here. So this side is the windscreen wiper stalk. And then if we move over, this is normally facing the top. So if we just turn the switch cluster upside down, we can see that we've got a couple of contact pads here on the bottom. Now, just to give you a quick explanation, we're just talking about the windscreen wiper stalk moving up and down to turn the windscreen wipers off or onto the various speeds. So we've got a common rail over here, and this common rail also goes into this little contact pad over there. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 contact pads, and then a small hole over there, that's the 5th contact pad. So this common section here and the second little contact pad here are both the same piece. That is the common rail. And we can see that I've got a multimeter here set on continuity, and I'm going to try and do this with one hand. It's a little bit tricky. There we go, we can measure continuity. So in the off position, when the windscreen wipers are in the off position, between our common rail and any one of these other contacts, the first one, the third one, the fourth one, and the 5th one, there should be no connection or continuity. So again, I'll just try and do this a little bit tricky. I actually need 3 hands here. But if we go to the common rail, let's test the common rail. That is working. If we go to number 1 contact, no continuity. If we go to number 3, no continuity. 4, no continuity. And 5, the little hole, no continuity. And that's the way it should be. And then if you want to test your switch, so if your windscreen wipers are stuck on, so like in other words you can't turn them off, you're probably going to be measuring continuity between this common rail and either number 1 or number 3. And regardless of whether you turn the stalk on or off, you're going to be measuring a connection there. But once it's fixed and once you've cleaned out the stalk inside here or inside this little switch cluster, when the stalk is in the off position, there should be no continuity. And when we just press it into that spring-loaded down position, so again, just a bit tricky here, into the spring-loaded down position, we should get continuity between the common rail and our first little contact area. There we go. So this stalk is now in the off position, and if we spring it down, we can hear there's continuity. Okay, then we've got the 3 speeds up. So if we go again from the common rail, not to number 2 because that is the common rail. So we go to the number 3. There should be no continuity, and if we go on the first click up, there we go, there's continuity, but there should be no continuity between common and 4 or between common and 5. So let's go back to common and 3, continuity, and if we go one more click up, there should be continuity between 4 and the common rail. There we go, continuity, but still no continuity between 5 and the common rail. That is correct. And then if we go the last click up between the common rail and 5, and there's continuity. So that's how this little switch works. You can see this very long contact over there. I'm sure that's going to be the common contact, and then you can see it kind of drives itself down into the center here, and then we've got 1 above it and 1, 2, 3 below it. And if you look at our stalk, when you go into the off position, it's kind of sort of centralized, and you've got 1 click down, which moves the contact 1 click up. And you can see, so we've got a common, and then we've got 1 click up, 1 contact above. And if we again look at the switch, our switch, we've got our off position, and we've got 1, 2, 3 contacts, so it can go up 1, 2, 3, which means inside the switch, it's going down 1, 2, 3. So that we've got a common contact, and it goes 1, 2, 3. So we should be getting continuity there because that's the same pin. And if I move up to the top here, we shouldn't get any continuity. And we aren't getting any continuity. And if we move down to the lower pin, again, we aren't getting any continuity. Move down to the next pin, no continuity. And down to the last pin, no continuity. Let's just double check that if we go back to that center pin. Okay, and we've got continuity there. So internally, that all looks good. Normally, what happens inside here, there's a little bit of grease, and I think it gets kind of bound up with the copper as it wears over time, and that becomes conductive, and then that bit of grease and whatever there is inside there, it kind of bridges the little the gap between these contacts, and then your windscreen wipers get stuck on. Well, there's going to be a short between this pin or this common rail here and either this contact pad or this next contact pad below our common pin. So yeah, it's just as simple as cleaning the inside of the switch, and then you should be good to go without actually buying a whole new switch cluster. I'm not going to put any dielectric grease in here. This had a little bit in before, but the switch cleaner that I'm using, it does have a lubricant in it. So once you've sprayed it on, just like that, once the alcohol or whatever propellant is in here, once that evaporates, it actually leaves like a lubricating film on these little contacts. So that should provide some corrosion protection and a little bit of lubrication for the contacts to slide past each other. There we go. So we can see we pull our lever down and then it goes into place. We can put our piece of plastic trim back into place. Now with the old switch cluster plugged back into the wiring harness and the ignition turned on and the windscreen wipers in the off position and they aren't wiping, this is a really good start. And if I pull the windscreen wiper stalk down into the single wipe position, the windscreen wipers work. Click it up into the intermittent position, the wipers wipe once. Click it into the low speed position, the windscreen wipers are working at low speed. Click it into the high speed, well, they are working at high speed. And if I come all the way back down to the intermittent position, they stop. Then if I click it back down to the off position, they also stop. So that is great. Everything is fixed. Super happy that I was able to get this done for practically no cost at all. So after having seen all of that, the common rail I was talking about earlier is connected to pin 3. Now, if you go ahead and test for continuity between pin 3 and pin 4, when the switch is in the off position, there should be no connection or no continuity. But if the switch is moved and it's held down into that single wipe position, or if it is moved up to the slow speed position, there should be a connection or there should be continuity. Now, if you test between pin 3 and pin 5, when the switch is in the off position, again, there should be no connection. But if the switch is moved to the intermittent speed setting, you should measure a resistance of either 2 or 4 or 8 or 16 kilo ohms, and that depends on where your intermittent wiper speed is set. And the intermittent wiper speed is 2 kilo ohms in speed 1, 4 kilo ohms in speed 2, 8 kilo ohms in speed 3, and 16 kilo ohms in speed 4. If you test between pin 3 and pin 6, of course, when the switch is in the off position, again, there should be no connection or no continuity. But if the switch is moved to the fast speed setting, then there should be a connection. If you are measuring anything else, it may be that your multifunction switch is not exactly the same as this one, or more likely that something has gone wrong inside your switch and either you need to replace it or you need to remove it from the vehicle. You need to tear it down and clean it and have a look at what's going on inside. Pretty much exactly what you've just seen me do. If that is your case and you want to see a step-by-step guide on how to remove this multifunction switch from your vehicle, you can go ahead and watch this video right here. Also, if you want to see how I unclipped the airbag from the steering wheel, because that can also be sometimes tricky if you don't know where the clips are, you can go ahead and watch this video right here. And I'll also leave a link to both of these videos in the description and also at the top of the comments section. Hopefully you guys found the video useful today. Please leave us a comment, let us know what you think, especially if you've got any tips and tricks that you want to share with the rest of us. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Cheers.